Hello, all. Hello, and welcome back to the channel. Live stream, first one in a couple of weeks since Monaco. Would you believe? A couple of weeks ago. Obviously, it was the Azerbaijan Grand Prix today. I've just doing a short stream this evening, just as a reflect. I know I normally do one straight after the stream. However, family time and all that. So here I am, a little bit later in the evening, doing a short stream tonight, just to discuss really what's happened today in the Azerbaijan Grand Prix, where Max Verstappen went on to win. And as per the title, as per the thumbnail that you might have seen, is it all over for Charles Leclerc and Ferrari? Because there's been yet another day where Ferrari have got some major issues with that engine. The Ferrari car is fast, but it is fragile. It is too fragile. They are. Would you believe the standings in the World Championship as a team, as constructors? Mercedes have had an awful season. They are no way near as quick as the Ferrari, and yet they are in the constructors right behind them. And for the very simple fact is that both cars cross the line. That is it. That is what Ferrari have got wrong. They've got a quick car, but you can be as quick as you like over a lap. You need to cross the finish line. So as per the thumbnail, as per the title, is it all over for Ferrari? And also Sergio Perez, who by all accounts now is the closest challenger to Max Verstappen. Are Red Bull going to allow Sergio Perez that run at Verstappen? Are they going to allow him to race based on the evidence this weekend? I would argue no, they're not. Based on the evidence this weekend. So I'd like to know what you guys think. Let me know your thoughts. Yeah, let's do this. So, as I said, Charles Leclerc, all over here for him from what I can see. Would you believe he keeps getting pole position? I think he's had, what, 5, 6 poles this season already? 2 race wins. In fact, the conversion from pole to finishing the race seems to be quite difficult at the moment. It's Ferrari, if they are going to get anything out of the season now, they've got to sort out, because the thing is as well, with all these engine failures now, it's going to cause them further problems later in the season. Even if they can fix the issues with the engines, they're going to use up their allocated number of engines they're allowed before they take penalties. They're going to use their allocated power units before taking penalties. There are going to be penalties for both Ferrari and Red Bull as the season progresses. It's really going to be a case of who's going to get the most penalties or who's going to get the fewest. But we are in a situation where the World Championship is no longer being decided by the fastest car, but actually more the reliable car. The Red Bulls, despite their reliability issues, and they're not squeaky clean, they've got reliability issues too, but despite that, they are more reliable than the Ferraris, even if their reliability isn't that great themselves. And so I guess the question going forward now, particularly with Ferrari and Leclerc and Sainz, let's not forget Carlos Sainz. Carlos Sainz, by the way, I know he had again another different reliability issue to Charles Leclerc, but reliability issue nonetheless. But even so, he was dropping away very quickly from the three in front, from Leclerc and the two Red Bulls, dropping away. By the time his car failed, a hydraulics failure, he was already several seconds behind. So he wasn't keeping up anyway, and that was always going to make things difficult if he did stay in the race. But Ferrari have to sort out these reliability issues. It's costing them very badly. Now, in terms of Leclerc, in terms of Verstappen and Perez, as I said, will Red Bull allow Perez and Verstappen a free run at each other? Will they allow them to race? I'm not so sure based on this weekend. Now, if you go back to Monaco and Perez won, having just signed a new contract, or having won the race and then signing a new contract, what we saw to this weekend was Perez was quicker in FP1. Perez was quicker in FP2. Perez was quicker in FP3. Perez was quicker in qualifying. But there was an incident yesterday at the qualifying. If those who haven't watched, I suggest you watch my video I released yesterday regarding this. Sergio Perez, with you get to the final qualifying, the last part of qualifying, that one last lap you get at the end of qualifying to go and put in, where your engine's at max speed, your tires a brand new set of soft tires, your engine's up, cranked right up, and so on. This is the time where you're going to get your fastest lap. And in the places like Azerbaijan, where it's so crucial, that toe that you get from the car in front. Now, people seem to sort of think that getting a toe means being within a second or so behind the car in front. It doesn't. You could be 3 or 4 seconds behind the car in front and still pick up some toe, some slipstream. And then, of course, Ferrari, or Red Bull, shall I say, made a decision. Have you ever known a car not to get out at the right time in qualifying because they were under-fueled? Ever? I've never seen it. But that apparently is what happened to Sergio Perez yesterday. If you believe that, then please buy some of my magic jumping beans. I'll put the link for that in the description. If you believe that. If you believe that, you believe anything. I believe that was specifically designed to prevent Perez from coming up closer to Max Verstappen and using Max Verstappen for a toe. That is what I believe. They did not want if Perez had finished in front of Verstappen and Verstappen knew that Perez got her toe from him, how do you think that was going to play out in the garage? We'll have Josh Verstappen on the phone again, telling them that they're all crap and that they're not doing their job properly, and how dare they favour another driver over there, his beloved Max Verstappen. So, and I'm just saying what other people think, But let's be honest. If you believe there was genuinely an issue where they forgot to fuel the car up, or whatever the issue was, they didn't fuel the car according to them, then you believe anything, frankly. And then today in the race itself, Sergio Perez was leading that race, and of course then the decision to bring in, or Leclerc coming in under the virtual safety car conditions, thereby getting a better, well, not better, necessarily better, but if you're racing under normal circumstances, it was a 20 seconds pit. Under virtual safety car, it was more like something like 14 seconds or something like that. So there was, from a timing perspective, you save a lot of time if you're pitting when everyone else is driving slower than they normally would be. The only difference, or the only argument here with Leclerc, was he was doing it at a time where it was only like 9 laps in the race gone, and it would have resulted, or it would have required him going on a long way into the race. However, as it turned out, if Leclerc hadn't retired, there was a second safety car later on where he pitted this, where he would have had an opportunity to pit again anyway. So in reality, it was the right call to pit Leclerc when they did. But if it weren't for the engine failure, there's a good chance Leclerc would have gone on to win that race. But in terms of Sergio Perez and Max Verstappen, they went on to a slightly different strategy in pitting Perez first and then Max Verstappen second. Max Verstappen had a longer run on the medium tyres. Perez was struggling with traction a bit, and then they went on to both onto hard tyres and then hard tyres. They didn't allow Perez to really have a race against Verstappen. And in fact, when Verstappen overtook Perez, it was They didn't say, please let Verstappen pass. They just said, look, no fighting, which in essence is, look, Verstappen's coming up behind you. Just, wave him goodbye. If you can give him a little kiss on the bum cheek on his way past and a little nice wave and say, thank you very much. I love you, Verstappen. That'd be great. That it wasn't a team order per se. It was an instruction not to cause any problems. And it wasn't a race as a result. In fact, Max Verstappen went from third on the grid to first and winning the race, having not made a legitimate, genuine overtake in Azerbaijan. In fact, as a race itself, I didn't think, particularly the front end, there wasn't a great deal of overtaking. And Azerbaijan's normally quite a good race for that. There was some overtaking. There was more than Monaco, but that was never going to be too hard, let's be honest. But in terms of the race itself today, particularly the front end, you had Perez on the first corner taking Charles Leclerc. But other than that, I don't recall, mainly because the Ferraris went out so quickly, but I don't recall after that a genuine overtake towards the front end of the grid. Top marks, by the way, for George Russell. In fact, let's bring up the screen. Let me just share. There we go. Look. So as you can see, Verstappen winning the race, Sergio Perez second, George Russell third. I don't know how he does it, to be honest. That Mercedes car has been nothing but absolutely useless. Johnny Vegas, no fighting is code to get the F out the way. It absolutely is, Johnny. Absolutely is. It's unofficial team orders. So he put down as that quote, unofficial team orders. Yeah, and it wasn't. It says it all. I've literally been having an argument on Twitter with some people on the Red Bull Twitter page, on their Twitter feed, when I mentioned about that they had clearly made the decision that Verstappen was to win this race and not Perez, whatever the cost. And when you've got both Ferraris out and both your cars are 20 seconds clear of the next best in the field, they could have that race finish any which way they want. Just because Verstappen won the race doesn't necessarily mean he was the quickest. And in my opinion, when you look at over the race weekend in FP1, FP2, FP3, and qualifying, even without the toe that they deliberately sent him out without, Perez was still the quickest. So for me, this was a manipulated result by Red Bull for Verstappen and Perez to finish in the order they did. Perez was never going to win that race. The minute both Ferraris were out, if I was Perez, I would have sat there and thought, I'm not winning this race. Because Red Bull were never going to allow that to happen, especially after Jos Verstappen's claim during the week. And no one will ever be able to tell me otherwise on that, especially when you look at qualifying yesterday. Especially when you take into account that in qualifying itself, 100%, Johnny. Especially when you take into consideration what happened yesterday. Have you ever seen a team send out a car in final part of Q3 late because, we didn't have enough fuel in the car? Have you ever? Honestly, what a load of bollocks. What a load of bollocks. That was never really the case. They sent him out late because they wanted to make sure that Verstappen was far enough down the road that Perez couldn't come up behind him and use him in any way as a tow. Because Verstappen and Joshua, can you imagine the scenes if Perez had got a tow from Verstappen and qualified in pole position as a result? Jos Verstappen would be having fits. I can see him throwing things round in the Red Bull garage. My goodness me, that would never be allowed. Oh, dear. I think we should see a good old-fashioned Mexican boxing match or Mexican wrestling match between Sergio's father and Max Verstappen's father, Jos Verstappen. That would be something I'd pay to watch. Put them in a Vegas boxing ring and have a wrestling match. Rey Mysterio will be back in Perez, no doubt. But on a serious note, look, this was never going to be a Perez race win, whatever, because after last week, so after Monaco and after Jos Verstappen's outburst, and because Ferrari being so useless with their reliability, fast but fragile, this was never going to be a Perez win, unfortunately. Or fortunately or unfortunately, it depends if you're a Max Verstappen fan or not. I personally, I'm not a Max Verstappen fan. I'm not a Sergio Perez fan. I'm not a Max Verstappen fan. I'm a Formula One fan. I want to watch a good Formula One race. What we saw today was a manipulation between two cars at the front because there was simply no one to challenge them. Because the only team that can challenge them can't finish races. Sums up, I think. That is the summary of today's race. I don't know what you guys think. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section if you will. Like I said, I agree with Johnny. I agree with what Johnny Fager said. No fighting is code to get the F. Is code to get the F out of the way. 100%. 100%. That's Formula One for you these days. That is what Formula One has become. The Mercedes are somehow, well, Mercedes, Ferrari could only wish to have Mercedes reliability, can only wish to have them. To be fair, so are the Red Bulls, but the Ferraris have been so crap all year. The Mercedes, and yet still. In fact, let's look at the standings. Bring the screen up. There we go. Look at the standings, race results. So we'll go with standings. We'll go with teams. I don't know how well you can see that, but let's just increase the size a little bit there. There we go. Red Bull Racing, 279 miles in front now, Ferrari. But look at that, 199 to 161. Mercedes are just behind Ferrari. Mercedes have been useless all year. Their car bounces around like it's going out of fashion. I've never seen a car move around so bad. I've never seen a driver get out of a car so gingerly. You might think he needs a walking frame, old Hamilton, as he got out of the car today. That's how bad the Mercedes is. Yeah, look. It's what? 38 points off the Ferrari. 38 points. That is how crap that Ferrari is running at the moment. Mercedes have been the worst they've been in 10 years, and yet they are just 30 points off Ferrari. The difference, Ferrari are much quicker than Mercedes. Their car is arguably the quickest on the grid, but they cannot finish their dinner. They can't. If you don't get to the checkered flag, it doesn't matter how quick your car is. If you don't get to the checkered flag, you're not going to accumulate points. No points means no prizes, as the saying goes. Nil point. Right, folks. I can see. Yeah, I'm going to call it a night for that. I said it will be a short stream. It was just to catch up, just to go on this. I will be putting out a video during the week, and I'll do a bit more of an analysis on the racing times, etc. And I think we need to find out. I need to see what's happened. Ferrari have got to tell us what's going on there. Johnny Vegas here. Paul Hamilton, his spinal column is going to be for this year to come. Yeah, and George Russell. George Russell's a tall lad, by the way. And if you're tall in that car, there's an easy fix, by the way. There's a very easy fix to this, and that is to raise the ride height. But if you raise the ride height, you are going to lose performance. And they at this moment in time, they are saying, look, you can cope with the shaking, you can cope with the battling, you'll have to do it if you want a quick car. The Mercedes, I think, need to go back to the drawing board. I would personally, if I was, that's for another video, because obviously it costs money. It costs money to change the car. It costs money to do the upgrades. If they were to revert back to a car they had, let's say, go back to the first testing in Barcelona, where they had much bigger side pods and so on. If you go back to all that, it costs money. There's a cost cap. Those cost caps are already at breaking point with the three big teams, Ferrari, Red Bull, and Mercedes. That'll be another video. That will be a video I will be focusing on this week at some point as well. And we'll come on to that at some point, because all three sides are on the verge of breaking the rules in terms of what they can spend. And I want to know, really, I want to find out, or I would like to do a video and look at whether or not the rules should be changed. There's a for and against it because, okay, the for them changing or allowing more flexibility within that is the fact that the price of oil has obviously gone through the roof. It's very expensive. A big expense of a Formula One team is its haulage. It's getting cars, crew, personnel, etc. All the bits and pieces. It costs money to fly them all around the world. And when you've got massively high oil prices, therefore you're going to have expensive plane tickets. You're going to have expensive car tickets. You're going to, it becomes a lot more expensive to transfer all your equipment, your cars, and your staff from one race to the next because of the price of oil. And obviously, when the cap was set for the budget, the price of oil and the price of fuel was lower than it is now, and it's still rising. So I can understand a flexibility to allow for that on some aspects, but there needs to be that if you're going to change it, there has to be a we'll allow the budgets increase by X percent based on the cost of fuel, etc., to so that it's not raising the budget and then the big team saying, "Oh, good, the budget's been raised. Let's get a new front wing in quickly. Let's get a new rear wing in. Let's get a new floor in, etc., etc." Because the whole point of these budgets or these caps are so that the smaller teams and the larger teams are able to compete more. In other words, what they don't want is teams like Red Bull and Ferrari and Mercedes spending $250 million on a car, being able to bring in new front wings, and the rest of the fields only being able to spend $150 million and only being able to upgrade their front wing twice, for example. Because what happens, it creates a larger gap between the top and the bottom. Specifically, when you also have the rule about the slowest cars at the back being within a certain percent of the top teams in qualifying. George Russell is doing great, Johnny. He is doing great. I think he's a very solid driver. I just wish he had a car that was fitting for him. To be honest, I'd like to see him in a car that can win races. Because at this moment in time, we're not. So George Russell is in a race of his own every week. He's sort of in no man's land. He's not really with the front, with the Red Bulls and the Ferraris when they're racing. But he's further ahead than the rest of the midfield pack. So he's in a race of his own, really, George Russell at the moment. They definitely need to revise the budget caps. I agree to an extent in terms of the haulage and in terms of getting equipment from A to B and so on, but I don't want. It has to be so that it can't be exploited. That teams can't use it, especially the big teams. Say, "Oh, good, well, that gives us a few $1 million to be able to upgrade our floor and our front wing," for example. So, as be fair. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that is it for me tonight. I hope you all have a good weekend. I hope you enjoyed the race today. Don't forget, I will be posting a couple of videos out during the week. One in terms of this race, two in terms of the budget cap. I'll go into more details on that. A live stream possibly later in the week. We're not sure yet. But either way, I hope you've all enjoyed, and I'll see you all again soon.